Hi, my name is Caleb Bosway, and my topic is being hard of hearing during the pandemic. I say I'm sorry, what? On a daily occurrence since this pandemic started in March. I am someone who is hard of hearing, wears a hearing aid to try to help me be a normal person and to communicate with others. I am one of 466 million people in the world who are hard of hearing or deaf, according to the World Health Organization in 2020. The reason why this pandemic has caused such an issue for those who are hard of hearing or deaf is that it's impossible to read lips now with there being masks. Masks restrict us being able to read facial expressions and nonverbal communication, and that speech is often muffled due to masks. So one time, me and my friends decided to go to Iowa for the weekend and just to have a joyous time during the pandemic. We decided to go to a restaurant in Iowa. We thought that it was just normal to wear masks everywhere and that there was a mandate for it because there was one in Illinois. We were mistaken. At this time, Iowa did not have a mask mandate in place. And so when we entered this restaurant, we looked around and saw that nobody was wearing their masks. And we didn't want to be a stranger in a strange place, so we decided to take our masks off and to appear normal. For me though, this was the first time in months that I was able to go out in public with people that I knew, and I was able to talk with them without having to have them repeat themselves constantly, because I was able to read their lips and I was able to see what they were saying without having to have them repeat themselves again and again and again. This is just another thing that really helped me out a lot during this time, was that I was also able to see their expressions. And for one of my professors this semester, we didn't know him. We knew him during the pandemic, and he has a very sarcastic sense of humor. And I was never able to tell when he was being serious or if he was being sarcastic. However, if I saw his facial expressions all the time, I think that would have helped me out a lot in determining if this professor was being completely serious or completely joking with us. And oftentimes it's hard to tell, and it still is hard to tell for me to this day whether he's being serious or sarcastic. And this is one of the problems outlined by the American Speech, Language, and Hearing Association, and that was published as an aid to help during the pandemic, which this guide was written in 2020. Another issue that they mentioned was there being muffled speech due to there being a constant wearing of masks. I first had this issue while I was getting surgery to remove tumors from my ear, which caused my hard of hearing. Before the surgery, the surgeon will ask you what side the surgery is happening on, just to be sure that everybody's on the same page. However, I couldn't really understand what he was saying, and I had to have my parents help me with distinguishing what he was saying to me, as I knew the surgery was on my left ear, but I couldn't understand what the doctor was saying. And this is a common problem, according to Lisa Mendel, who is a professor of communications at the University of Memphis, who did a study on healthcare communication in 2008 and recognized that this was an issue with those who wear masks in the surgery and surgeries, and that their communication was very limited and very hard to understand at times, and that communication was always off-kiltered between different people in the operating room. The three major problems that I have, being somebody of the hard of hearing community and the hard of hearing and or deaf community, is that it is impossible for me to read lips during this time because of the masks. For me, it is almost impossible to understand nonverbal communication, such as body language and facial expression. And the last thing that is impossible for me to hear is muffled speech, which causes me to ask people to repeat themselves constantly, almost every day, if not every day. I believe that people should not have a problem repeating themselves during this pandemic, as it is very difficult sometimes to hear people, and I know people can get frustrated at doing that, such as my dad can. And that my story is just a small story in the deaf and hard of hearing community, and I encourage you to hear out others on this issue. I know that there's a lot of deaf and hard of hearing creators on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I know if you look it up, I know that there will be accounts that will pop up that will educate you more on these struggles of being deaf and hard of hearing. Thank you for your time today. So, card number 1. Card number 2.